Dear students, welcome to this course on sectoral growth in India. This course has been prepared and is being delivered over a period of 15 weeks. It has been designed and delivered with great care. Dear students, this course will give you an overview to begin with about Indian agriculture, the agricultural sector, also industrial sector and the services sector, which you know are the three main sectors of the economy. It will also cover through various discussions about the financial sector, the external sector, the foreign trade policy, and lastly the economic reforms, as well as a very important global issue, that is WTO. In the first week, we will be focusing on the role and the nature of agriculture. Basically, the cropping pattern and the institutional framework will be discussed. We already know that agriculture has played a vital role in India's economic development. Therefore, we would first discuss the role of agriculture and its relevance in the Indian economy, the cropping pattern in Indian agriculture as a whole, and also we would look into some aspects of international experience and most of all into land reforms, which is a part of institutional reform. In the forthcoming week, in the second week, the focal point of the discussion would be about agricultural inputs, agricultural production, productivity in India, and the future prospect of green revolution, which had unfolded in the late 60s, and the second green revolution, which is now unfolding. Now, some of these aspects are the technological aspects. Earlier, we looked at the physical aspects and the institutional aspects. In the third week, we will now look at certain other institutional aspects other than land reforms, that is agricultural credit, pricing policies, agricultural marketing, and so on. There will be a discussion on the significance of credit for agriculture, the phases of the evolution of agricultural credit, varied instruments of pricing policy, and the objectives of agricultural price policy, as well as the institutions responsible for formulating and implementing the agricultural policy in India. So, dear students, keep it in mind that the first 3 weeks shall form the basis for understanding not only the topics in the later part of the course, but also many other sections which relate to the sectoral growth of Indian economy. After this, in the fourth week, we will be focusing on industrial growth in the planning period and the industrial policy. There shall be a discussion on the industrial base, the Industries Act of 1951, the Industrial Policy Resolution 1956, and the components of different industrial policies in India. This forms the basis of India's long-term development strategy. The major industries in India will be studied along with an emphasis on micro, small and medium enterprises in India. Also, the all important basic industries which were incorporated into the public sector enterprises will form a part of the discussion in week 5. We will first discuss various industries which includes iron and steel, cement industry, textile industry and so on, and learn about the status of different industries in India, the case for small scale industry in India, and the contribution of MSME sector, their problems and the policies which have been evolved to solve with these problems will also be understood in this week. Problems of sick industry, industrial sickness, and the labor market reforms in India will be discussed in the 6th week. Here we will understand the conceptual framework of industrial sickness and the causes behind industrial sickness, the arguments against the labor market regulations and also the arguments in favor of such regulation and institutions will be discussed. This is a very important aspect of the new reforms. In the next week, the 7th week, we shall make you more knowledgeable and have a better understanding about the services sector and also about price behavior, which is another important aspect of the Indian economy. You would know about the share of services in GDP, the share of services in employment, and understand the reasons for the kind of splintering growth that has taken place in the Indian economy, which means that manufacturers outsource non-core functions to other firms in order to keep the costs down, and the other reason being that the demand side impetus has been there, which has led to such a pattern of growth. You will also be familiar, you will be made familiar with the price behavior and inflation along with the trends in the general price level. Week 8 will be a revision and assessment week for you. In this week, you are supposed to revise what all you have learned in the past 7 weeks. Please submit your assignments on time. Please note that the marks that you get in these assignments would go towards your overall grade in this course. So therefore, it is a part of what is known as summative assessment. Now, we move on to week 9. In this week, we will study about the financial sector and the needs to transfer resources from savings surplus agents to savings deficit agents by overcoming the information asymmetries in the financial markets. And we will focus upon the financial sector reforms, and there we will study about commercial banks, cooperative banks and the Reserve Bank of India. We will also understand the concept of the money market and various reforms in the Indian money market during this week. The next study would be about a review of monetary policy and the structure of interest rates. In this week, that is week 10, the capital market, SEBI and the other institutional structures which are there in the financial system will be discussed. In the 11th week, we shall be studying the external sector, which will comprise of the major trends, the structure and the direction of foreign trade. There will also be a discussion on the concept of balance of payments, which again is a very popular notion, and also will study about the structure of balance of payments and the trends in balance of payments. In the 12th week and the 13th week, we will be studying about the external sector policies. First the trends, then the policies. In the 12th week, we will study the foreign trade policy 2004 to 2009 and the foreign trade policy 2009 to 14 and also a prospective policy that is from 2015 to 2020. We are midway through this period. The objectives of certain pertinent policies, that is FERA, which used to be the earlier policy framework, and how we switched from FERA to FEMA will also be discussed in this week. In the following week, we would be having a discussion on a related aspect, that is the policies and the importance of multinational corporations in an emerging market, the role of multinational corporations in developing countries, also certain special policies like the special economic zones, and then we have certain macroeconomic stabilization policies and the structural reforms in India, which is ordinarily also called the structural adjustment program. All of this will be studied in the 13th week. In the 14th week, we shall discuss about the process of liberalization, privatization and globalization, popularly known as LPG, along with a study of disinvestment policy and what is the relationship between India and WTO. The last week, the 15th week, is a self-study week. This is the second self-study week for you. In this week, you are supposed to revise the entire course, cover the entire syllabus, study and use all the study material, learn very well about the sectoral aspects of the Indian economy, study the details and try to think about the policies. So, after completion of this course, you would have a regular proctored examination, you would be intimated about it, about the details, the timing and so on. Dear students, I am sure after studying all this material, you would reach a new level of understanding and commitment towards the Indian economy. Please go through the entire e-content, which includes the self-learn videos, the e-text, and perform the activities, assignments that are given to you from time to time very sincerely, and at the end of this you are going to be the gainers. You would have a great self-learning experience. I am sure. All the very best.